we're back for another episode of Executive Conversations. In this podcast, I talk to go-to-market leaders about how they actually do the other side of marketing, which is getting buy-in from people, rallying the troops, getting budget, all the stuff that they don't teach you in marketing courses. And it's really, really important for us to know. If you enjoy this episode, please do give it a like and subscribe and share it with somebody. I always forget to say this part at the beginning. I always say it at the end, so I'm just throwing it in there. Today's guest is Reza, VP of Marketing at Avenir, which is an AI-powered connected source-to-pay solution with a focus on contract lifecycle management. How's it going, Reza?
Awesome. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm really happy to have you on the podcast as well. So you were telling me you're going on a journey from large enterprise to slowly more and more early stage startup, and you just joined Avenir in August of this year, 2024. Is that right?
That is right. That's right.
How?
So I have a very interesting journey, right? So straight out of university, I joined Microsoft. So I was a part of their student partner program, and then that's how I got into Microsoft. Spent about 5 years there running, marketing project management and programs for the ACAD sector as well as the software system integrator sector, so the SI sector in India. Did a bunch of product launches and spent about 5 years there. It was very interesting, very exciting, especially when you're out of college to work in such a large organization. But then I think I got bored pretty quick there and moved from Microsoft to a company called Metric Stream that was there in the governance, risk, and compliance space. They at that time were about a 15 million ARR company, and I spent 10 and a half years there at Metric Stream across multiple functions, from demand gen to product marketing to field marketing, corporate marketing. Really spent all my formative years, if I may call it, at Metric Stream. And then, the Indian SaaS boom really happened, about 4 or 5 years ago. And I wanted to get into the Indian SaaS space, and then shifted from Metric Stream, shifted to a company called Shipsy, which was in the logistics SaaS space. Spent about 3 years there, heading the marketing function, basically building the marketing function and driving about 5x growth over 3 years for Shipsy. And I've just joined Avenir about 2 months ago. It's been an interesting journey so far, getting to know the space, getting to know the CLM space a lot, and building some really good, solid demand foundations for the organization. So it's been a very interesting journey.
It must be quite a change coming from Microsoft. Well, I guess Microsoft was earlier on, but different dynamics.
Very different dynamics, and also I think the way the businesses operate, right? I think there's a lot of change in how things are very, very structured in Microsoft. There are a lot of processes, a lot of best practices in place, but then sometimes those things take a lot of time in terms of you getting to market or getting your projects and initiatives and campaigns out, right? Budget approvals have a set process, and it takes maybe a few weeks or months to get things in play. Whereas in smaller startups, you need to be more agile. You need to be able to get your plans out pretty quickly, test the market, and if you fail fast. But try and figure out what really works for you, because you don't have the luxury of budget or time.
So this whole moving fast, is this the smallest company that you've worked in, Avenir?
Yes, it is. It is. So even Shipsy, when I joined them about 3 years ago, was in a very similar size. But Avenir today, we are about 90 employees, with customers predominantly in the US, and a few customers in Europe, Asia, and in Australia. But yes, I think very similar size to Shipsy when I joined, but also Avenir. So these two are the smallest companies that I've worked for so far.
Mm-hmm. So what are the current go-to-market motions that you guys have in place?
So I think
You mentioned that there's a lot more experiments. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, for sure, right? So I think, like right now, one of my key objectives, coming into Avenir is to really help build a solid demand gen foundation for the organization. We obviously, have some really good customer successes. We've seen a good product market fit for ourselves, and now we want to expand and grow the company, at least at a minimum of 2x this year. And to be able to do that, building a strong demand foundation has been the key, right? And as soon as I got in, I noticed that there are certain channels that have worked very well for the company, being organic SEO, being events, but certain other channels there hasn't been much success. And one of my early objectives is how do I look at diversifying my demand, creation through newer channels like email marketing or paid ads or a few other partnership channels that can sort of bring in a lot more than what we are doing today. So that's what my focus has been, and in the larger context of our conversation, a lot of it has also been about how to set the expectations with the founder on what is it that we can expect if we invest in some of these channels, right? And I think that's been my conversation in the last 2 months, and that's been the only conversation, so to say, in the last 2 months.
Yeah, so I was going to ask that. So you have these channels that have been working or have not been working, and you're saying, okay, we're going to double down on this, cut back on this, but I also want to introduce these new channels. And this is how I propose the budget split. And this is the reason why. Can you walk me through how you have done that?
Sure. So I think especially with founders and it's based on my experience in the last couple of organizations. I think especially when it comes to a new initiative that they've not seen or tried before, founders sometimes are tend to be a little risk averse. They want to make sure that the marketing leader or whoever is leading marketing clearly understands what they're getting into, right? That they've seen what the risks are, they've seen what is needed to get things done, and they need to be able to trust the leader coming in with the initiative that they're proposing. So I think it's very, very important for any leader coming in to first ensure that the objective that you're trying to get to aligns with the overall business needs, right? And I think that's something that has always helped me to make sure that whether it's revenue or whether it's customer retention or whether it's pipeline growth, it's very important for any new initiative to be aligned to what the company's growth is, and more so in a startup where resources are a crunch, budgets are crunch, time is a crunch. You really need to put all your resources in the right basket that would give you the output, right? So aligning with the goals, especially in startups, it has to be revenue focused. It cannot just be lead or traffic focused. It has to be revenue focused, and then being able to quantify the impact that that particular initiative is going to have, right? Whether it's going to help you build pipeline, lower your CAC, improve your LTV. I think as a leader, you need to be very, very clear about what that particular initiative is going to result in. So I think that's how you start the process of defining the objectives, defining what what metric of the business goal that the initiative is going to impact, and defining what sort of the impact that the initiative is going to have. And I think that's pretty much the start for any new process of getting a buy-in, right? Um, and what I've seen is, of course, you put in the proposal, you put in a, and this is something that I've learned from a former manager of mine. So he used to be a Navy officer, and he used to have this very strict process of any new initiative has to have a document in place, right? You cannot just come and propose something on an email or propose something on a call, but actually have a detailed document in place talking about what the initiative is, what's the objective, what are the corporate goals it aligns to, what are the kind of budgets that you're expecting to spend, and what does an execution plan look like, and who are the resources or the team members that are going to be involved, right? And then we float this around with the rest of the leadership team or the other stakeholders, and ensure that you get inputs. It may not necessarily be a buy-in from other stakeholders, but at least inputs on what their what their inputs are, what their opinions are, whether they have a they can play a part or whether they can contribute, because especially in smaller startups, it does happen that other leaders will sometimes chip in to help a different function out, just because we all have a common business goal, right? And that's why aligning to the key business goal is very, very important. So I think this is, something that I've seen and practiced and has worked really well for me. That this document that you share with other leaders, with the other stakeholders, and in the end, one of the things that I like to do is also talk about the risk of not going ahead with this initiative, right? I think it's as important as talking about the initiative is what is the impact of us not doing this initiative, or maybe pushing this initiative out by a couple of quarters. Because many times, we just look at it at one lens saying, okay, if I do this initiative, this is what I get. And you try and compare it with ROI from other channels, right? But what is the risk of not doing it is equally important. Yeah.
So thank you for sharing all of that. When you're looking at, so you mentioned, for example, email marketing. So this all makes sense. You want to tie it to revenue, and you say, I think we should invest in email marketing. What are you actually, so if they've never done it before, you don't have any historical data for this, what are you basing the connection to revenue on?
Right. So some of the companies have done it before, but without any success. But especially when an organization has not done or not leveraged a particular channel, so this is when I start looking at two things. Right? One, of course, my own data from previous times that I've tried it elsewhere and seen success, but also industry metrics. Right? There are a lot of industry best practices, industry stats that are available for you to look at, uh, and especially even like from other leaders, right? So speaking to other leaders in the same industry or similar industries, you get a lot of insights on what are the current trends, how are customers reacting to different types of emails, how are the open rates like, how are the click rates like, and whether email as a channel is leading to more conversations. So you sort of set uh, end goals and leading indicators to see that your channel or your initiative is working, right? So yeah, I think that's a pretty good way to get started. So understand standard metrics, understand metrics from your specific industry, but then set certain goals for yourself. Say that, okay, I'm going to try this for 3 months, right? And sort of take baby steps, right? Say, okay, in the first month, I'm looking at achieving not X dollars in pipeline, but I'm actually looking at X number of meetings or X number of conversations with the ICP to get started with. Now, if I'm able to achieve this, which means that I am having the right message, I am reaching out to the right people, people are interested in seeing or reading the content that I'm sharing with on email, right? So basically look at baby steps, look at smaller, break down the entire pipeline goal into smaller steps, and keep working your way towards that. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we sent out a campaign here at Avenir. We saw that the open rates were really good, but the responses were very less, right? So now this week we tried a different kind of a message, a more higher value based content, providing insights and learnings to people that we're sending out and sharing these newsletters with. And I am starting to see a slightly better response to my previous email, right? So that's how you keep tweaking your campaign until you figure out what's really working.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you have the right formula, once you have the right kind of message that has resonated well with the audience, you take it up a couple of notches.
Yeah, so I don't know if you can relate to this, but sometimes I've worked with people who say, let's give it a taste. Let's give it a baby step. We'll put a little bit into it and then see where it goes. But in certain channels, like SEO, for example, if you're in a very competitive space and you need to build up, baby steps don't show much.
Yeah.
Like you need to go all in, you need to put a big budget in it to show that it can go. Otherwise, baby steps is going to take you forever to actually
Yeah.
show anything. So, do you ever have to find that kind of balance where you're like, yes, I kind of want to test this idea. We can do baby steps, but actually, baby steps, budget wise, isn't going to do anything. We have to put a heavier upfront investment? Or do you ever face that kind of issue?
Yeah, I think with certain channels, yes. Like I think certain channels, especially events or even performance marketing, does require uh, you to have a slightly larger investment. Uh, you know, and even with SEO as well, for that matter, baby steps would take a very, very long time, right? I mean, any change in content or any change in technical strategy would only show results maybe 5, 6 months down the line. So, yeah, I think even in those scenarios, what I've seen is understanding the metrics that each activity is going to impact. Like for example, one of the websites that I was looking at, and actually the Avenues website was we looked at our entire SEO and looked at how we can improve overall traffic, overall lead conversion. And one of the first things we identified was we have a few technical issues to solve on the infrastructure level, right? Because our impression rate was low, our crawl rate was low. So we knew that if we fix those aspects, we will start seeing an impact at least on impressions and crawls, um, which may not result in demand immediately, but we know that that's going to eventually lead to
Mm-hmm.
higher traffic and higher, more time, more visits on the website, leading to more, session durations, etc. Right. So I think it's always important to understand those metrics at every step. So saying, hey, if I make a change in my firewall, what is the impact it's supposed to do, right? Am I reducing my crawl errors or am I improving my crawl errors, right? If my crawl errors have gone to zero, is my impression share going up or is that going down? I think keeping a track of every individual metric would help, especially with SEO, where any change would take a long duration to actually deliver results. But when it comes to things like events and like performance marketing and paid ads, maybe Google ads or LinkedIn ads, these are very, very cost intensive. Now, of course, some of these, Google and LinkedIn does give you a recommendation of what's the kind of budget based on your audience size. But I've always found it useful speaking with other leaders, speaking with a few industry experts to benchmark what's the kind of spends that they have, what's the kind of ROI that they are seeing in their particular industry, and use that as a way to at least figure out what's your initial investment that you need to put in place, right? And just like investing your personal finances, I always believe that for certain initiatives, uh, you need to trust the process, you need to trust what you're doing, and set aside a budget that you're willing to risk, right? So I wouldn't say you're willing to lose, but you're willing to risk, because you know at times, yeah, maybe paid ads may not work for your industry, right? But you need to, if you don't try it, you'll never find out. So that's what I always believe in.
I really align with your way of seeing it, that you have to trust the process, take the time, do the baby steps, and look at the leading and lagging indicators.
Yeah.
You know a lot about the leading indicators, the lagging indicators, all these different metrics that you're supposed to look at while you take the baby steps, and basically what the different milestones are in growth. But not all founders or not all people who marketing reports to understands these. um, how do you go about educating them to better understand the time it might take, or what they can be expecting?
Right. No, 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 you're absolutely right there, right? I mean, educating, the founders or the, the leaders within the organization is very, very important, especially, from what I've seen in a lot of technology SaaS companies, the founders may not be coming in from a marketing background, right? They might be great at product, they might be great at selling the product, but when it comes to marketing and demand gen, they're not always the experts, and it's and most founders, when they do their first marketing hire, or when they bring in a marketing leader, they're looking at that leader to bring in industry best practices and bringing that
Mm-hmm.
experience to advise them on what needs to be done, right? And while of course the investment comes from the founder for all the marketing initiatives, it's very important for the leader to educate them right from how does a particular channel work, right? What are the elements that what are the elements in terms of processes, in terms of resources, the kind of resources that are required to ensure that a channel is a success, and what are the metrics that you would be looking at, as you build that particular channel out. So, very important to advise the founders on all of these aspects before they really start trusting you that okay, they're willing to give you the 3 month, 6 month runway to
Right.
try out the initiative.
What are no,
Sorry.
sorry, go ahead, continue.
Yeah, so I was saying that and the way I've seen this is speak with other industry leaders, maybe look at what competition is doing, or look at what other technology service providers in the similar industry are doing, and then use that as a way to benchmark your plans and initiatives and outcomes.
What's your go-to to build trust with the founder or with the person that you're reporting to for them to be able to give you that longer runway?
Yeah, I think you know so different things have worked with me with different founders, right? I think one is um, you know sort of showing early wins has always helped, right? And defining what those early wins look like. I think that's something that's really worked for me. And also setting realistic expectations. I think that expectation setting is the number one step to building trust, right? Because many times there are founders who expect that things might change within a couple of weeks. You'll get 100 leads in the pipeline, right? That may not always happen. Also, setting realistic expectations, setting realistic budgets, and also providing an honest feedback about um, you know, maybe what a founder is thinking today, about their own process, about their own team, because this is usually their baby, right? I mean, this is always their baby. They've built it, so they always have higher expectations of it. So sometimes setting the realistic expectation and showcasing early wins is very, very important when it comes to building long-term trust.
Yeah, I love that. What do you, just the last question before we wrap this up? Um, that expectations conversation that you have, because as you said, they always have higher expectations. They're like, I'm going to get this fancy marketing guy in who knows everything about marketing, and we're going to be drowning in leads in the next quarter. And I might be exaggerating a little bit, but kind of not, because I talk to people who have those expectations. What do you do to come and set expectations when possibly the people that you're reporting to don't have this marketing background and they have the expectations that are too high?
Um, actually, that's an interesting question, because I've probably had the fortunate privilege of working with folks who have given me that luxury so far. But I think typically, if I get your question right, what do you do when the expectation is too high and when it's unrealistic, right? Um, yeah, I think that's a tough question for me personally. But here's what I would do, right? I would sort of go back to the basics, go back to say, okay, let's look at what our the organization objective is. What is it that we're looking at achieving as a company, and how are we breaking that down? Because and maybe it's not always about building brand new pipeline, right, or building an entire new segment to market to. It's probably about looking at how you can tweak some of the existing initiatives that are already working, existing channels that are already working, and build on top of that rather than trying to go create something
Hmm.
new altogether, right? So I think,
Yeah.
um, yeah, so it's very important when, in that scenario, when the expectations are really unrealistic, to zoom out a bit and try and work and work your way with the founder to say, okay, I understand that this is what it seems like we need, but let's look at what do we really need and how can we improve on other factors, right? Like, for
Yeah.
example, if the expectation is just to build pipeline, right? Just but and not look at pipeline conversion, right? Which is the next step. And maybe your answer lies there. Maybe you're already creating a lot of pipeline, but it's just not converting better, right? So how can then marketing help in the sales pipeline conversion
Hmm.
aspect by better sales enablement, better bottom of funnel content? So I think that's how you probably look at when expectations are sometimes unrealistic for certain channels. Uh, and also, uh, like we speak a lot about setting expectations with the people that you're reporting into, but sometimes it's also very important to set expectations with people that are reporting into you as well, right? Um,
Yeah.
because it's equally important to get their buy-in as much as getting the buy-in from your leaders. And I've seen multiple experiences, where sometimes your team doesn't think that we'll be able to achieve certain things in certain time. They would think that you are setting an unrealistic expectation with them, but it's all about sometimes all that it needs is just sticking to your plan, trusting the process, as I said earlier, and showing the team that, hey, look, even if we may not achieve 100%, let's aim for 100%. We might hit an 80%, right? And sometimes that's all you need to show the team that and get the team to
Yeah.
go, follow you on with that initiative, right? And this is something that happened to me when we at Metric Stream, we used to run this event called the GRC Summit, global conference in the US and Europe, and it was a multi-year event. uh, had already taken place for 7 years by then, when COVID happened. And overnight, we had to switch from doing an event in person to converting that online, right? We had 400 people already signed up to participate in that event, and we had less than a month to turn the whole thing to an online event. And the team just didn't believe that we could achieve something of that scale, especially when there was a whole uncertainty around COVID back in March of 2020. um, but making sure that you tell the team what the clear plan is, what's expected from each one of them, and just putting your heart into the plan,
Yeah.
it is all what it takes. And we were able to convert that into a live event with close to 2,000 people attending the event, just in a couple of months, right? So
That's
it
huge.
does. Yeah, and if you had told me that I would have been able to do it along with the team in a month, even I did not believe it. But we had no other option, right?
Yeah.
We had to do it. It was something new for all of us to try, and I think in the end, everybody pulled it off really well. So I think getting your team um, to back you is as important as getting your stakeholder to buy into your
Yeah.
plan.
I agree. It's underrated, really. This just failure is not an option. I'm going all in. That as the leader, you need that actually to get the team to be bought in and to back you with it. Congratulations on getting that across the line.
Yeah, no, it was fun. It was a very uncertain time for everybody, but I think end of the day, all of us really enjoyed
Yeah,
doing it, and it was a whole lot of fun. So that really helped for sure.
love it. Well, this feels like a pretty good place to wrap up the episode. Reza, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been a really good conversation.
Absolutely, it was a pleasure speaking with you as well.
Thanks. And for those listening, remember, please give it a like, subscribe, and share. And I will see you in the next episode.